Unsolved.
JonBenet and the DNA. First, I wanted to start this video off with a little remembrance of JonBenet, so we keep in mind that a 6-year-old girl lost her life over somebody's wickedness. Now this video is about the DNA test results, so I thought I would start off with a simple explanation of how they get the DNA. So the DNA comes from some kind of cell, either a blood cell or a hair cell or a skin cell, etc. And they put the sample in a test tube and they put some kind of ingredient in there and it destroys the cell wall. And then put it in a thing that spins it. You've seen one of those things that spins the test tubes around? And that brings the DNA to the top. Then the third step, they remove the DNA, only the DNA, and put it in a test tube. And then they do some kind of process to enlarge the DNA so that they can look at it. So what you might realize now is, in that original test tube, you might have the majority component of somebody's blood, but then have a cell or two in there of some other person's skin. And they get all mixed together in the final test tube of different kind of DNAs for different people. So here is the original DNA lab report. And it was completed only 3 weeks after JonBenet's murder. And we're going to look at the first 8 exhibits. And I will explain them so there's no confusion about the test results. Exhibit 5A and 5B. Blood stains from JonBenet's shirt. My first observation is, how did the blood stains get on her shirt? And were they from the inside or the outside, the interior or exterior of the shirt? Exhibit 7, blood stains from JonBenet's underwear. It's not clear if the stains are from the interior or the exterior. And is the stain a smear or a drop? And how large was it? Exhibit 14B, blood stain standard, and 14I, the swab from the saliva. These samples were taken during the autopsy and are used to compare with the other exhibits to see if they match or not. Exhibit 14L and 14M, the right and left hand fingernails of JonBenet. And here I realize if they scrape under each finger, they probably get a lot of different DNA. And it could have been there for quite some time. Exhibit 15A and 15B, the saliva stain from the duct tape. These stains occurred when her body was lying there after her death. Exhibit 16A, blood stain on the white blanket. Not sure how and when these got there. Does this show that the blanket was underneath JonBenet when she was assaulted and murdered? Exhibit 17A and 17C, the Barbie nightgown. Not sure about this. Were these bloodstains from that night, or were they from some previous incident? So the results were, I numbered them 1 through 5. Number 1, that the shirt, saliva, the tape, the white blanket, and the nightgown were all only JonBenet's DNA. No other DNA was found on those items. So what we're left with is number 7, the blood stains on the underwear, and number 14, L and M, the right and left hand fingernails. Number 2, the DNA profiles developed from exhibits number 7, 14L, and 14M revealed a mixture of which the major component matched JonBenet Ramsey. If the minor components from exhibits 7, 14L, and 14M were contributed by a single individual, then John Andrew Ramsey, Melinda Ramsey, John B. Ramsey, Patricia Ramsey, Burke Ramsey, Jeff Ramsey, John Fernie, Priscilla White, and Mervyn Pugh would be eliminated. Now, number 7 exhibit had a minor component that was labeled Unknown Male 1, and exhibit number 14 had a minor component, but it's not clear if that is Unknown Male 1. Now, number 3 I'm going to skip because I covered it in an earlier video and I don't want to get sidetracked. Number 4, a DNA profile could not be developed from exhibit 48B, Linda Hoffman, and a complete profile could not be developed from exhibits 42B or 47B, John Fernie and Mervyn Pugh. So here's a passage from the book Perfect Murder, Perfect Town. And I like this book because it's pretty accurate and it's chronological. So here it says, from 2 or more sources, when they discovered the blood on JonBenet's underwear. Now this passage later on in the book says, however, the CBI pointed out that the material found under her fingernails showed signs of contamination and the markers on the DNA typing were weak. Now in December 2007, the Boulder District Attorney, who took over the case, sent some more material to Bode Technology to be tested. And I'm going to do a little commentary after I provide you with the results. And the results came back 3 months later. And one of the new items they tested was the Long Johns. 4 samples were collected from this item. A, exterior top right half of the Long Johns. B, exterior top left half. C, interior top right half. And D, interior top left half. The report indicates that DNA analysis of the exterior top right and left portions of the Long Johns reveal the presence of a mixture that includes the victim and 1 or more male contributors. Notably, the profile developed by the Denver PD and previously uploaded to the CODIS database as a forensic unknown profile, Unknown Male 1, and the profiles developed from the exterior, top right and left portions of the long johns were consistent. Therefore, the male contributor to the CODIS profile could not be excluded. So this is when District Attorney Mary Lacey confirmed her belief that there was an intruder, because the DNA matched JonBenet's underwear, the unknown male number 1, with the top of the long johns, the left and right side exterior DNA found. And so she drew the conclusion that there is definitely an intruder. But the question is that original unknown male number 1 the killer? Or is it contamination from some other object? For example, that the long johns had touch DNA all over them, and it spread to her underwear. In another passage from the book, Carrie Mullins, the primary developer of PCR typing and a Nobel laureate, had often said that this testing was never intended for police forensic work because it was too vulnerable to contamination. Patsy Ramsey had stated that she looked for pajama bottoms for JonBenet that night but couldn't find any, and so she found these boys' long johns in another drawer, I guess, or somewhere. Here's a visual of them in a package. This size is a little bigger than what was on JonBenet, but it's the same brand. So it's possible the source of the DNA contamination could be these long johns, from the production of them and packaging of these long johns, or the contamination could have happened that night from JonBenet's black pants, from the basement carpet, from the white blanket, and then when she was brought upstairs, from the throw blanket or the avalanche sweatshirt. The most surprising thing that I learned from creating this video is the second part of this passage that I'm going to read. It says the results of the DNA testing were inconclusive at this time, the police said. The DNA found under JonBenet's fingernails showed the possibility of contamination. Nevertheless, the police claimed that they had been able to exclude certain people by these DNA tests. This led Barry Scheck to comment, "You can't say that the DNA test results are iffy and then exclude people because their DNA doesn't match." What this is basically saying is all the people that they tested their DNA, all the suspects, one of them could be the murderer of JonBenet Ramsey. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and tune in tomorrow night for the Zodiac Killer case. And have a nice weekend.